Hello everyone, my name is Agent Strange, and welcome to the first episode of my interview series, Into the Code. In this series, I'll be primarily speaking with members of the retro shooter community. Everyone from mod authors to professional developers to voice actors and composers. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Nash Muhandes, a Malaysian creator best known for his contributions to Doom's source port development and his upcoming retro-inspired shooter, DISDAIN. Let's dive in. Okay, so everyone, welcome to the very first episode of what I am tentatively calling Into the Code. Just a nice little Doom reference for that deep Into the Code song from the classic Ultimate Doom, all that fun jazz. So I am joined today by our first guest, Nash. Is it Muhandes? Is that how it's pronounced?
That's correct. You pronounced it perfectly.
Okay, excellent. So Nash Muhandes from all the way in sunny Malaysia, exactly 12 hours ahead of me at the moment. I've been to Indonesia and Singapore, so it's pretty close to Malaysia, but not Malaysia itself. So that's always cool to meet people from all over the world.
That's right.
So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is what would be your earliest video game memory? What would be the thing that kind of started this whole deal?
I would say the very first computer game I've actually ever played was Wolfenstein 3D.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I was, it was in... Yeah, so Wolf 3D came out, just came out at the time, and we had my mom bought like this home computer that had a bunch of games pre-installed in there. So there was a Prince of Persia, there was Wolfenstein, and the first reaction when I fired up Wolfenstein was like, "What's going on here?" Like, because you start in this room like facing like the dead guard, right? And and the HUD, like I guess the hand sprite was like so low res, so even early on I already disliked like the whole pixelated look of the the whole thing, Yeah, and I asked my mom like, what's this, like, what do I do? and then she had to read the manual and stuff and like teach me how to control the thing. And as soon as she saw what was actually going on in the game, like I think I could tell like she probably thought she made a mistake letting me play that game at such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was something that I've read about in I still haven't finished John Romero's biography.
Yeah.
But I did read Masters of Doom, and it's pretty well known how Doom and Mortal Kombat were pretty infamous for, at least in the States, getting Congress's attention. Just like, I'll use video games or, poisoning our kids and whatnot. And, that it played a major part in the establishment of the ESRB.
Yeah.
So it's always funny when you go back and it's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I watched this movie or this show. Looking back, probably shouldn't have, but, hey, we didn't know any better.
Exactly. So that was my first like PC game, and then of course I played also Prince of Persia, which was also pretty gory, I would say. And then so growing up, I was like, how do I say this? Like, if I did well in exams, my mom would like buy me like video game consoles or whatever. So I moved on from like the PC to the Game Boy, and then the Nintendo console, Super Nintendo, and stuff like that. And I played a lot of video games as a kid, like to the point where like my mom was like, you can't be spending too much time playing video games. You got to study and all that. Typical Asian mom, kind of thing. But
yeah, you gotta study, go outside, socialize.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always been somewhat of a little, I wouldn't say antisocial, but I like spending my time, indoors mostly.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm the exact same way. I have a little bit with social anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with hanging out with people that I know,
Mhm.
but just going out for the sake of going out has never appealed to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather just stay at home and do my own thing. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, earliest memory, pretty much, yeah, the PC, you know, the earliest Nintendo consoles. I owned almost like every console, I think, up to like
Ooh.
the Xbox era, the PS2 era.
Mhm.
So up to that point, I would have like, yeah, I've owned pretty much almost all the major consoles. So I played a lot of video games as a kid.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like me. My earliest, I really can't answer that because I just don't know. As far as my earliest video game memory,
Mhm. Yeah.
The first console that I had, you know, my brother and I bought an N64.
Ooh.
That was our first system.
Yeah.
But before that, he had a Game Boy, like the original one.
Mhm.
And then at some point, I got a Game Boy Advance, and we, as a family, you know, we had the family computer,
Yeah.
and we played. What was it? I played StarCraft and Warcraft 3.
Oh, wonderful games. Love those.
He played those as well, and Jedi Knight, the Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Academy. There's this Hot Wheels game that that I liked to play because I figured out a way how to flip the car and just do all the loop-de-loops backwards.
Nice.
But as far as like any single game, that's kind of hard for me to pinpoint. But you know, I think like a lot of people, at least our age, you know, I'm 32. Growing up in the early mid 90s and stuff, you know, it's fairly common that, you know, just a lot of kids playing games growing up with, you know, being a Nintendo kid or being a Sega kid or being, you know, it seems like more rare having been primarily a PC kid.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially during that time, the PC wasn't really garnered for that kind of experience.
Yeah.
You know, it took people like, you know, id Software and Apogee to really take advantage of what a PC was capable of in terms of like entertainment software.
Yeah.
But so that kind of taking advantage of software, that's kind of a good stepping off point for the next thing I want to talk to you about is how did you personally get involved in modding? You know, was Doom the first game that you started to mod, or was it Wolfenstein 3D? How did that journey begin?
Say, like, my first foray into, like, I guess, PC development actually started even before modding. So back in the early 90s, there was this program for Windows called Click and Play, which was this, like, I guess one of the earlier like game creation tools you could get on a PC. And I looked at the box and like, oh, what's this? It says that I can make my own games. So, oh, sounds fun. So I fired it up, and so that was actually my first experience with. So Click and Play was basically like this drag and drop, like it's very primitive now if you look at it now, but it's you just drag and drop like you know, like the sprites and everything, and then you lay down what the program called events, which is basically their quote unquote code, the coding of it. So you basically insert a bunch of commands like, okay, if the user presses left, do what? If it presses right, do this. If all that. So that was like the earliest, my earliest experience in programming. I think I was like 10 years old at the time. So I had a lot of fun with that. I actually didn't know Doom was moddable, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, so I played that, and then I actually only discovered Doom modding very late into my life, actually after I finished school, when I was like, I guess 18 or 17. It was a year, what year was that? 2002, I think. So around that time, GZDOOM came out. the first version of well, not the first version, but one of the earlier versions of ZDoom, which is what GZDOOM was eventually based off of. So ZDoom is a software rendered Doom source port.
Yeah.
So I fired it up, and I had played Doom prior, of course, before in MS-DOS and all that. And then when I discovered ZDoom, I was like, oh, this is cool. They added like, oh, mouse look, and then I could jump and all that. And then I read the forums, and then oh, people make maps. How do I do that? So that's how I started, dabbling in. I think back then it was called Zeth, I think, which was one of the earlier map editors for ZDoom. So I started making my own maps, and then eventually the author of ZDoom, Marissa Haidt, as she's known now, she introduced like this coding language where you can create new monsters and create new weapons. And I, of course, I dabbled with it. It was a lot of fun. It was back then there was Dehacked, which is another form of I guess actor editing with Doom. But then Decorate, introduced by ZDoom, lets you do so much more. You could basically introduce a whole bunch of new monsters, new weapons. You can add new animation frames, and so that eventually this was still around the early 2000s, so 2001 to around until 2006. And then in 2006 I came up with the very first version of Nash's Gore mod.
Yep, a classic.
A classic, which of course, in case anyone doesn't know, eventually became the basis for, of course, Brutal Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and as you would say, history is from there. So, definitely, for ZDoom, I have a lot to thank for my whatever I have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Landmark ZDoom, transitioning into GZDOOM,
exactly,
which is pretty much what I would say that would be the majority of what people use, unless they're doing something particularly niche. They don't want to have something that's a limit removing source port.
Yeah,
they would have played, because dehacked ports they don't remove limits, do they? Or are they mostly like a vanilla style?
Yeah, DSDA I think does remove, and in fact adds it expands upon the dehacked format with MBF21.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's still pretty much like a classic within a classic, framework. So obviously no 3D floors and dynamic lights or models and all that.
Yeah. So I know there's still a big, maybe market's not the right word, but audience for Chocolate Doom and source ports like that. Funnily
enough, when I get in the mood to play classic maps, I actually do not use GZDOOM. Yeah, because there is something about the way GZDOOM is coded that everything from the physics to the player movement, it's slightly different. So yeah, and I can appreciate just wanting to just play something simple and old school at times. So yeah, so sometimes I believe it or not, I don't actually use GZDOOM all the time, even despite being one of the developers on the team.
Yeah, I don't think that's fairly uncommon. I've heard other stories similar to that. It was oh well, you're the person who made such thing. Surely you use it all the time. It's no, not really.
Exactly.
What you mentioned though, as far as game feel, that's something that I've heard other people mention. The thought that came to my mind was I was watching a Civ 11 video series on. This is before Blood Fresh Supply had come out. So just going through is all these these different Blood ports, because the source code hasn't been released, or just the community having to cobble together something. And I settled on this one because it feels the most like how I remember it.
Funny he said that, because in my opinion, the Kex Blood engine is it feels very different from the actual Blood game. Even the damage calculations and all that, it's very different. Whether it's bad or good, I'm not one to say, but it definitely does not feel classic to me.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of the modding scene for these older games where, you know, you can just have whatever flavor you want. You know, if you want to have something that's got all the fancy bells and whistles, you know, that option is there. If you want something that is as close to how it was when it first came out and you had to boot it up in DOS or whatever, that option is still there.
Yeah.
So that's something that I personally give scenes like, you know, Doom, Quake, Duke Nukem, tons of props for.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that you can really replicate in these newer games.
No.
That are coming out now. Because the level of complexity is just, you know, magnitudes higher. So, that one... Or, hold on. I've got to pull up my questions.
Yes.
So, I think you may have mentioned this earlier, but I want to make sure I ask. When did you officially get involved or, like, brought on to work on GZDOOM?
Oh, I think I gotta pull that up. If I were to just wing it, it's probably around 2020, I think. I may be wrong on this. Okay. It'll be real funny if someone listens to this after the fact and just points out that, Nash, you were wrong in your interview. But I think it was 2020. I got the official developer title right around the time where I was producing widescreen graphics for GZDOOM.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, it's a good way to tell. When did the Unity Doom widescreen patch came out? Was that in 2019? Let me see.
I can't remember when the patches came out. I know Unity was 2019.
Oh yeah, so I think it came out 1 year after that, so probably 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Unity Doom was such a weird thing when it first came out.
It was even the music was weird and.
Yeah.
it's pretty solid today.
Thing.
It was pretty solid today. But
yeah. No. Arguably, you know, as far as if you don't want to get involved with GZDOOM or anything like that, you know, I've always told people it's just get the current Bethesda port.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can download all these great add-ons like Back to Saturn X.
Wonderful.
Or Sigil. You know.
That makes me so happy to see all these modder creations getting in the official build. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I am shocked that they're still supporting it. Mm-hmm. Because it just seems especially because, you know, they're free, you know, they're not charging people to download this stuff. So it's presumably a small team of people at, I don't know, would it be id Software doing it or Bethesda Softworks themselves?
Probably id.
It's you know, okay, yeah, it might be id. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Look, I know anyway. Sponge from id Software. He's been around in the Quake, one of the several Quake Discords, and he's been pretty busy with the Quake stuff, and of course, whatever secret stuff he's not allowed to talk about yet. But yeah, I think whoever's handling the Doom stuff is most likely id.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be the most logical thing. But you know, I'm very thankful. You know, don't take this as a criticism. You know, if anyone from Bethesda or Microsoft's listening to this, you know, I am very thankful that you guys are still supporting these games. So thank you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So from 2020 to now. No, that's pretty good.
I started out contributing to ZDoom actually from. Around 2015, one of my earliest contributions was, I think it was a thing that let your camera sort of tilt, you know, when you in Quake you strafe and then the camera sort of tilts. So you couldn't do that in ZDoom, but you could do that in GZDoom. So I sent what's called pull requests. So I sent code submissions basically to both. ZDoom and GZDoom. I wasn't really aware that the software renderer couldn't do it at the time. I kind of basically didn't know what I was doing. So so that was one of my earliest submissions, which did get into GZDoom. And then because around the time, I think Total Chaos was like still early in development, the mod by Wadaholic. And from what I've spoken to, from what I've heard from speaking to Wadaholic, so I asked him, hey, how did you do like the camera tilt? You know, because he would post like these early videos, right? And you could see like all this awesome camera work. And then he told me like, basically I just render a separate camera on the floor, and then I point the real player like downwards, looking downwards, because back then you could not directly alter the camera's roll on the player. So he did this really clever hack, I would say, where basically he makes the player look downwards, looking at a camera, and then by turning the player's angle, it sort of looks like a camera roll, you know? And I was like, okay, that is clever, but also why? Because why don't you just roll the camera? And then I did some digging around. Oh, it's because he can't. So when I found that out, you know, I was like, you know what? Let me just add camera roll so you don't have to do it this weird way.
That's crazy. It's so funny to think about all of the weird tricks that people have to come up with to get something to work.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird tricks in the GZDOOM scene.
Yeah, the thing that was coming up in my mind as you were saying that was it's Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Like when you start a vanilla game, you know, you start off as a baby and everything, and you got to walk around a little bit. And, you know, it's like they're not gonna create a one-off model that they're gonna use for a 10-minute bit.
Yeah.
You know, that you'll never see again. So it's just like, you know, okay, well, let's just shrink the player down to the size of a baby.
And then if you do like the free camera, and then you'll see it.
So as long as he doesn't, hit the tilt key and TFC to toggle camera, you know, no one's the wiser. So it's just like, okay, you know.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense, like from a creation, like I guess from you know, like you said, you know, no one's gonna actually access a console. So why waste time creating assets that won't be seen? It's the same case with like Cyberpunk. You know, when someone hacked in like third-person animations into the game, and then they discovered how ridiculous it looks, and then people started, you know, like making fun of it. And I think that's just like weird, because you can't make fun of them because they don't support third person. So why would they implement third-person models and animation? You know, it's just a smart thing to do.
I mean, I was thinking the same thing when this was on Twitter. I don't know, 3 weeks ago, about how they're talking about how in Starfield, when it's raining, there's only a certain like little box around the player that actually has the rain. It's like, oh my gosh, these lazy developers.
You don't say.
Like, you can't make it rain everywhere like in the real world. It's like, who cares? You're not going to know this unless, you know, again, you're toggling the camera to look for it.
That is pretty much that's how rain is done in video games since like ever. You only spawn rain around your camera view. It doesn't make sense to spawn like individual rain particles like in the whole world, because, you know, you're not even going to be able to see it from beyond a certain distance, right?
You wouldn't be able to see it, and it would presumably be resource intensive.
Of course.
You know? So like, what's the point? You know, it seems to me, you know, this is just like a slight tangent, that, you know, there's been a lot of people who complain about media literacy. You know, it seems like that kind of has been creeping into the gaming scene as well. Yeah, where people are just, you know, they're just not really cognizant of, you know, why things are the way that they are. You know, it's like, well, because, you know, it's a resource problem, or it's, you know, it's a time management problem. Exactly. You know, it's a budget problem. They're not going to allocate resources for this, you know. So just that particular instance with the, like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, or especially like when Starfield was about to come out, there was some Yahoo who was complaining about how just very minimalist the main menu was.
Oh, I remember that.
Like, who cares? Who cares?
Exactly.
You know, there's plenty of reasons to have one or the other. It's up to the developers. You know, that was what they wanted. It's, you know, if you boot up Skyrim, it's literally just a black screen with a little bit of fog at the bottom and then the logo. And that's it.
That's it.
And people love that game. So why are we, you know, shifting the goalpost for this game?
Anyway. Yeah, that sounded like it's like someone complaining that a game is cel shaded versus like photorealistic. It's a stylistic choice. Yeah. You know, some people like clean menus. Some people like skeuomorphic, you know, like 3D style, you know, very textured and all that. So it's an artistic choice. You can't say this one is wrong. This one's you can't say developers lazy just because they decided to make it like, clean and simple. You know.
Yeah,
it's a stylistic choice.
Because, you know, and we'll never know unless we happen to be there in the meetings that they have, you know, when they're developing these games. We're never going to know.
Exactly.
So just trust the people who actually made the product.
Exactly.
When they say, you know, this happened because of X, Y, and Z. You know, there's not some kind of conspiracy happening. You know, they're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes or anything like that. But anyway,
yes.
About game development, what would be something like top, you know, first thing comes to your mind when someone like me would ask you, what's something about this mod development or, you know, even just full-on game development because of Disdain, you know, what is it that you love about what you do?
Well, first off, it's like one of the, if not the only things that I'm actually like decent or good at doing at. So if it's something I'm good at, I excel at. Of course, I enjoy doing it naturally. But I would say like one of the the joys of doing all this, like modding, game creation, is just bringing my ideas to life. So I said earlier, like you know, I played a lot of video games, and then when I picked up that first copy of Click and Play, that was no mistake. I got it for a reason. I was definitely interested. Like, as I was playing video games, the thought that eventually crossed my mind that, hey, I want to try and make my own games too. In fact, when I was in school, I remember like playing. I had like this box Dungeons and Dragons set, and I started being a DM. You know, I would invite like my neighbors to the house, and we would try and play. That was a funny experience because so for those who don't know, in Malaysia, like English is not the first language, right?
Yeah.
So my English is, you know, what it is. It sounds pretty much like this because I speak English at home.
Yeah, and let me say, you know, your English is, I mean, to me, it sounds like you're a native speaker.
Thank you. I can thank like Hollywood for that. We watch a lot of movies. So
I can thank American cultural domination for that.
Exactly. So going back to the Dungeons and Dragons thing, so you know what was funny is that so I guess I was very good with English, and my neighbors weren't so good with English, but they were interested anyways. So they would come over and you know they would listen to me, you know, narrate, you know, all the whatever's in the rule book. And then sometimes if they don't understand, I will have to explain it again in my native language, which is Malay. And then so that was my early, I guess, it was one of the earliest forms of like wanting to make my own game, you know, my own adventure. So I guess it's in my blood, you would say. I just love creating, you know, stories, worlds. And I love especially being able to, there's something so cathartic about like typing stuff in a code editor or clicking things, and then suddenly you see that stuff that you made like move around with something happening. It's so satisfying. And then so the first reason is of course like self-satisfaction, and the second like I guess big motivation is that I like customizing my experiences. So with like Doom modding, for example, like with a gore mod. So I just love I just decided, oh, you know what, I want like tons of gore, and so I go ahead and make my own gore. So and
if no one else is doing it, then I'll be the one to do it.
Exactly. So hold on a second, something's wrong with my mic. Just give me a sec. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, as I was saying, no so I just love customizing my experiences. There's actually a lot of stuff that's been sitting in like my hard disk that hasn't been released yet. Some major ones, some major projects, and also some minor projects. Like, I just love like tinkering with games and mods.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hopefully, some of these will see the light of day when I'm done with like Disdain, at least.
Yeah. I hope to see them too.
Yeah.
So, the opposite of that, what is something that you dislike about what you do?
One thing I dislike about what I do is, and if we're talking about like coding, like when stuff does not compile, like like a missing semicolon, or I type something wrongly, like if a letter is like capital when it's not supposed to be capital, things like that. It really annoys me. Yeah, I would say like compile errors is one of the things that I think if I were to like collect like a total amount of time that was wasted on like compile errors, it's probably like it would probably be a grand total of more than like a whole day, I think.
Ooh. Yeah. So is it because you, like, for me, it's kind of related. Like when I put up a big mod list, like if I'm going to replay Skyrim or something, I go crazy. I'm the same way. I want to tinker and have it the exact way that I want it to be. And when you go into that level, 99% of the time, it ain't going to work the first time you boot up the game. You're going to have to quit out a lot and change some things around.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
But
yeah,
the urge to just get on with it, I just want to be done with this thing. Is that what's causing you to have problems with compilers, because you're kind of rushing just a little bit out of frustration?
I would say like impatience definitely is a part of that. Especially like, sometimes I would like be stoked to implement something, like I have an idea, and the only thing standing in my way is like the code to run to make the thing work. And then it gets like frustrating because I want to see a thing like happening quickly, but then it's all these mistakes and typos I keep making, and so that is definitely a factor of impatience.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it would be, speaking as someone who's a habitual procrastinator, that sounds like that would be the preferred obstacle to overcome, for me at least. Just actually sitting down and telling myself, you are going to do the thing,
Do the thing,
and just get it over with.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me to have to deal with sometimes. So you love creating the art of creating, of having something in your brain and being able to, put it on a screen and see it come to life.
Yes.
You dislike the compiling process, dealing with typos, having to suffer the consequences of
technical
rushing.
Issues, basically. Like, there's a lot of even not just with coding, but with graphics, like. For example, and I do 3D modeling as well with Blender, and then like Blender can be a very weird and frustrating program sometimes. And I remember like in my very very early days of learning Blender, I would have I would spend 10 minutes in an app, and then I had to stop, open YouTube, and look up for tutorials because everything's just so weird. And then I spend another like probably 10-15 minutes looking for a short tutorial. Because when I look up a problem about Blender on YouTube, I don't want these like overly long, like 20-minute videos explaining something that could have been explained in like 20 seconds,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Right. So that can get frustrating as well with, like the art creation. And then even with Blender, like, again, talking about like Blender tutorials, sometimes these videos just straight up disappear after some time. So even if I bookmark
or they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just no longer valid, because there's a newer version that came out and it completely changed.
Oh, this is why I'm
workflow.
still using the old version of Blender. I get a lot of flack for this, but for the record, I still use Blender version 2.79, which is like mega old by now. In fact, all of my games, even Disdain is fully, everything is fully modeled in Blender 2.79. I stick to that because I've already found, my workflow that works, so I don't want to change it.
Yeah, I've read about David Zemansky.
Yeah.
Being the exact same way with Unity. It's like I'm using this version of Unity, and I refuse to update it because I know how to get things to work in this version.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with that.
What would be something? Yeah, absolutely, nothing wrong with that. What would be something that you wish people understood about what you do, as a modder, as a game developer, like a common misconception that you wish you could dispel?
This one might be a bit spicy, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this actually, because like as time as time passes by, like this is one thing that I've slowly begun to realize, and I have not exactly put my thoughts into words yet, but I haven't tweeted about it or whatever, but it's been a growing concern, and that is people assume that I am the go-to GZDOOM guy when there's a problem with GZDOOM.
Yeah.
I don't mind helping out, it's cool, I help out whenever I can, of course. But it gets weird when certain other developers, commercial or not commercial, they come to me with a problem and then they send me, bug reports or whatever, and they think I have control of power over everything. I don't. I don't. I'm just one of the several developers on the team, and especially when it comes to crashing issues, crashing problems are never fun to figure out. You'll have to use debuggers. It's a very lengthy process. Even for my own games, even with Disdain, when something crashes in Disdain, and I end up having to use the Visual Studio debugger to find it, I don't like it, and that's my own project, So
yeah,
what makes people think I would be motivated to help you with a crash on something that's not my own, I guess quote unquote baby, and and possibly not even get any compensation for it, So, but I don't tell people off, of course, I would say, okay, I'll let me see what's up, and then I'll look at it, and then what I would often do is just say, you know what, this is a generic GZDOOM crash. I suggest you post an official bug report so that more than one person can take a look at it. Don't rely on me to look at it, because I am not a GZDOOM wizard.
Yeah, I am one person.
Yeah, I'm just one person. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the job that I have, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I have to manage other people to a degree. I'm not officially a manager, but I am on the receiving end of work orders.
Yeah.
And, I receive them, and then I will distribute them amongst the team. But because of that, the people who want to follow up on those work orders, the people who submitted them in the first place, their first instinct is to come to me and ask me what the status is, when I have no clue what's going on with this. I'm just the person who received the email with your work order and, gave it to, printed it out and then gave it to the person. And I told you who was working on it. So please don't ask me.
You're just a
please
messenger.
direct your question. Yeah, I'm literally just a messenger. Please direct your question to the person who is actually working on your problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I empathize with you on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that's spicy take or anything, because as someone who, is well known within the community, yeah, for someone who's none the wiser, okay, I'm just going to shoot Nash a DM on Twitter or Discord or whatever, and it's like, because I don't know where else to go to present my problem. So, I can understand both sides.
I would normally direct people to either the official ZDoom Discord or on the GZDOOM GitHub if you have any actual crashing issues or what. Because at the end of the day, GZDOOM is GraphZal's project, so he is responsible for it. And we co-developers, there's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, it's still Graph's baby, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
and this is this is a, well, I mean, I'm making an assumption here that as a GZDOOM co-developer, this is not something that you're necessarily being financially compensated for, correct?
No, of course not.
This is so it's volunteer work. You gotta have place some expectations. You can't treat this like you're trying to get customer service from a billion-dollar company. This is just a small group of people doing this for fun. So, okay, yeah.
People are generally nice enough about it. I have not actually ran into any serious problems with these kinds of messages, requests for help and all that. But I do recount one very strange occurrence, if you don't mind me. I just remembered this, and
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing to retell. So I think it was on Facebook. Somebody, I don't know. They
Facebook.
Yeah, they found my IRL Facebook account. Not that.
Oh no.
I mean, not that it's difficult to find, anyways. Yeah. But so I tend I don't really treat my Facebook account seriously. It's there for shit posting and whatnot. So someone added me there and then started sending me scripting questions and all that. And I think at the time it was Christmas or so, and my internet was down. So this person so happened to send me a question right around Christmas Eve, and then my internet got cut off, and I think I only was able to get back online 3 or 4 days later because the ISP and everyone's on holiday, so no one was available to look over stuff, right? So when I came back several days later, I opened my Facebook inbox, and this dude was just he got upset, and then when I tried to reply, it says you cannot reply to this person. I was like, huh? What's up? Did he block me? So I clicked on his profile. He did not block me, but he unfriended me.
Oh, and even worse.
He unfriended me, and he posted this rant on his Facebook status was visible to all. It's got that globe in the world icon, so it's a public post.
Yeah. And
he was just subtweeting, sub-posting, whatever. What did he say? He was next time, don't say you can help. You can help if you can't help. He was really upset. And then I was like, holy shit! My internet was down. I was not able to get on the internet at all. So, yes. Yeah.
And it's Christmas Eve.
It was Christmas Eve. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, stuff like this, it's funny. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had, when I first started my Twitter account, it's only happened a couple of times, but every now and then I would receive a DM where someone thinks I'm an official id software account.
I actually thought you were at first.
Yeah. I was like, no. This is just, listen, bud, this is just a fan account. Go to their forums.
Yeah.
Ask your question. So that was always funny.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of move back a little bit because you mentioned stuff that you're working on, and we've name dropped Disdain a couple of times. Catch us up on what Disdain is and how it's going.
Oh, Disdain is it started out as a funny, like a little self-imposed game jam in 2021. I have always been fascinated with Quake, even though I want to go on record and say this right now. I am actually not much of a Quake fan, if you can believe that. But Quake is very fascinating. Like everything about it is fascinating, from its development history to obviously the 3D engine, the aesthetics. I actually love Quake's aesthetic, despite not really being a huge hardcore fan of the game. So one of the things that I threw around this idea a lot, on Discord, and even before there was Discord, oh, you know what? Technically, GZDOOM has almost enough features to make it like a Quake style game. It's got 3D models, it's got dynamic lighting. It does not have the baked light maps yet at the time. So I was like, why don't we? Why doesn't anyone make a Quake style mod? There were common direct Quake ripoffs. I'm aware of that. There's these several mods, TCs rather, where they just import directly all the Quake models and all that. But I wanted to see something original, kind of like Quake, but not really Quake. So so the idea was thrown around a lot, even years prior. And then finally in 2021, I got around to it. I was like, hey, you know what? Let's try make an original, well, not so original, but like a from scratch, Quake style game in 10 days. And I actually totally I underestimated the workload. I actually ended up not. There was this whole wish list, not wish list, a to-do list of stuff that I laid out a plan. So day one, do this and this and this. Day two, this and this. And towards the bottom of the list, more things got unchecked. So what eventually ended up coming out was severely undercooked and not finished. But I was proud of it because it was I guess my first I guess you could say it's a first finished product. Well, technically, of course, it's unfinished, but it's my first thing where I can say, hey, I worked on this. It's pretty much almost it's done. So here it is, and it's also my first map release. I've not released any maps at all in the community prior. Yeah, and
no, it would be because it's on Steam, so that would be your first, first official thing. Yeah.
So around the time, so the Quake clone in 10 days thing was called Elder Jam. Elder being a reference to Elder World, Lovecraftian stuff, right? So Elder Jam, and Jam, of course, being Game Jam. So when that was released, at the time, I was working on another GZDOOM based game, actually, Darkadia, which was supposed to be this horror, Silent Hill style kind of game. I'll talk more about Darkadia later, in case people are wondering what happened to that. But yes, I was working on Darkadia, and then around the time, so I was working on Darkadia, and then Realms Deep came out, and then I got a little burned out from working on it. And then I remembered, around that time, it clicked to me, hey, so GZDOOM in 2019 had this very unfinished a light map implementation. So Quake style baked lighting. So it was based off some ancient version of GZDOOM that wouldn't even compile. So I was like, hey, why don't I try hack in light maps into Elder Jam and maybe do an update release or something. So I went back to the old code. I dug out the light map code from the grave, so to speak. I looked at it and I was like, oh shit, this is not working. So I went ahead and I spoke to DP Judas, which is the graphics programmer of GZDOOM at the time. I was like, hey, do you remember the old light map thing you did? Is there any chance we could get this code working in the then latest version of GZDOOM? And he was like, nah, it's not gonna work. He's like, just forget it. So I was like, oh man. And then I was so stubborn, I don't know what got into me, but I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna graft this piece of dead code into like the latest version of GZDOOM back then. I'm gonna graft it in there and I'm gonna make it work somehow. So I spent like, I think it was more than 12 hours. Like I was working all night and then all throughout the mornings and towards the next day. And eventually I did get it to compile. It ran, but then it showed nothing. Like the screen was just black. So, and I went back to DP Judas. I was like, hey, dude, so you know what? Like I tried merging the code, but then, you know, there's a black screen. He couldn't tell me what's up. And his first response was like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy?
Like, what did I tell you beforehand?
You're crazy? Fine, I'll help you. Let me take a look. So, and then that's where everything just kind of, that's where it started. So, yeah, so he took a look. He got it all, you know, drawing the shadows and the lighting and everything. And that eventually became, it got into like the DISDAIN demo build that's out on Steam right now. So that code. But back then, I was basically using a heavily modified version of one of the mainstream GZDOOM branches with just light maps enabled, only for DISDAIN. So that was a plan at the time, like, oh, after the DISDAIN demo comes out, I'm gonna like work on this a bit more, and then I'm gonna polish everything up, and then enable it in the mainline GZDOOM. Because the light map stuff in DISDAIN demo actually is quite broken. If anyone with sharp eyes can tell like exactly what's broken with it. So it's obviously not polished enough for like a mainstream GZDOOM release. So I said like, okay, so this stuff will come out like, you know, sometime after. And then there was this lull in like GZDOOM development. Graph got really busy with his real life work and stuff, and there actually was not a new version of GZDOOM for like almost a year or even more, I think. And there was just no communication, you know, so this proved to be difficult because I want to, you know, move forward with this light map agenda, but then, you know, their communication with mainline GZDOOM proved to be, you know, impossible sometimes. So, you know, I spoke with DP Judas and I was like, hey, you know what, let's just make a fork. Let's make a fork. Let's ditch OpenGL, because OpenGL, even today, with GZDOOM, is growing. There are a ton of problems with it. You know, with every new version that comes out, it gets more and more broken. So, and based on like the GZDOOM survey that Graph runs, apparently the amount of like OpenGL users are shrinking. So, it was decided that, you know, Vulkan was eventually the way to move forward. So, but with Graph basically generally missing around the time, you know, when VK-Doom was started, so we decided to fork the engine, and, you know, we gutted the engine, gutted OpenGL, and made it fully Vulkan. Added, you know, like ray traced light maps, ray traced dynamic lighting, because DP Judas loves it to, you know, fiddle with like, you know, modern graphics using the Vulkan ray tracing API. So, and that was how VK-Doom was started. So VK-Doom became like this sort of like a it became like this fork of GZDOOM where we are free to do whatever we want, you know, without like you know, like, because GZDOOM obviously has its set of rules, you know, like how to conduct the project, and sometimes we just want free reign to like change or delete stuff in the engine, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how VK-Doom came out. So, and then obviously DISDAIN has been. So VK-Doom and DISDAIN has a very like symbiotic relationship, I would say, because features tend to get developed. VK-Doom features tend to be developed for DISDAIN, with the intention of exposing this stuff to, you know, to the masses as well, of course. And then,
one doesn't come before the other.
Yes, exactly. So VK-Doom will, you know, power DISDAIN first. And then we will sort of open up the engine to be more like, you know, like more generically usable. In fact, we have the VK-Doom Discord right now open, and people can already start playing with VK-Doom. So there are people, yeah, there are people already playing with the light maps and stuff, and I can't wait to see, like, you know, when more people have access to this stuff. There are plans eventually to like merge back this code into GZDOOM 5.0. I don't know what the time frame is in that, but yeah, rest assured, we are actually now that GraphZal has seemingly resurfaced, we have been in excuse me, something's wrong with my mic.
Yeah, no worries.
We have been in communication with Graph, so yeah. So the plan eventually is to like backport most of the VK Doom enhancements back into GZDOOM 5.0. I don't know when that is. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that was going to be the next part of my question was, tell us about VK Doom. But, it's like, well, I can't tell you about VK Doom without telling you about Disdain. So
yes.
That's always cool when you start working on a project and it's like, I'm running into these issues. It's like, man, let's just do our own fork.
Yeah.
If we want to do this, we gotta not start from scratch, but, we got to start from a different branch than what we're working with right now.
Because when you have like very specific needs for your game, more often than not, you will have to touch the engine code somehow. The Sulaco guys are doing that. They've got some awesome, crazy stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, they've got some crazy stuff. One thing I'm super interested in Sulaco's engine modifications is the multi-threaded asset loading. So they've got that going. We have some ideas on how it's done, but we'll let them, let them have their glory, let them do it. But yes, yeah. So even Sulaco has to like tailor the engine to do what they want for their game, because they have like all these like bespoke, like needs, So yeah, and then with Disdain, like obviously I want Quake style lighting, being its roots from like a Quake clone, obviously it's got to have like the Quake style, baked light maps. And yeah, there are some other
Polygon.
Yeah, Polygon, stuff like that. So there are a lot of like custom stuff we do in the Disdain engine as well, besides the light maps. Yeah, but I will talk about them more, when things are more ready to show. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely make sure to have a link to the VK Discord whenever this video goes live. So
wonderful.
I think I got 2 more questions for you, so we can wrap this up.
Let's go.
First question is, what game, or it doesn't have to be just one game, but what game are you most looking forward to in 2024?
2024. Let's see. Oh, I am a huge open world. Something that this is actually not very known amongst people is that I love open world games. The Bethesda games especially in particular. I love open world games. So but Starfield just came out, and then I think the next big open world game that I'm looking forward to is well, not exactly open world, but I'm not sure. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this kind of fits into the whole open go around, do anything kind of thing. But Stalker 2 is something I'm very looking forward to. I love the Stalker games. But yeah, so Stalker 2 is one of those. What else? I'm actually not aware of what other big releases are coming out next year, because
yeah, I just pulled it up myself. I'm trying to. There's the Suicide Squad game.
Oh, Alone in the Dark. The Alone in the Dark remake. Is
Alone in the Dark, yeah.
Yeah, that's also. I love the original Alone in the Dark games. Yeah. But Stalker 2 is one I've been watching for a very long time, because I actually love these, open world survival style games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely have to check that one out. I still haven't played the originals, because I know that there's some kind of weird, if you want to play them, you have to get this version of Stalker that's like a giant fan patch / mod.
Yeah, exactly.
That's called Call of Pripyat or whatever. And that's how you play the game. You don't play it vanilla, because it's too broken. Yeah,
it is too broken. So for Stalker 1, it is called the Zone Reclamation Project, which, like you said, it's like a fan patch. But one cool thing about the ZRP is that you can disable, you can enable and disable a bunch of stuff. So, this is how it, with old games, and even, like you said, you have experience with modding Bethesda games, this is how it is. You kind of have to like set off like one entire day, I think, like to really customize your experience, and then only you can actually play it.
Yeah, I know. I know that all too well.
But normally, like with a huge Bethesda games, like so I uninstall and reinstall the games a lot. So I would spend every time I do like a new run, a new mod list or whatever, I would tell myself, okay, I'm not gonna play today. I'm gonna spend the whole day just setting up mods, and then I'm gonna play tomorrow. So, and then sometimes when tomorrow comes, like I'm just tired from all the modding.
Yeah. No, your approach is almost exactly how I approach it. You know, it's like, okay, okay, I'm just gonna set, Friday when I get home from work, I'm not gonna actually play the game. I'm just gonna get, at least now I use Vortex as my manager for those games. So like, at least now, and even if you used MO2, you could have Wabbajack do all these collections, auto mods, and things like that. Mercifully, that helps speed up the process. But even then, I'll take someone else's curated list and take out the stuff that I don't want, and then put in the stuff that I want. So
one of the curses.
I'm definitely there.
One of the curses of like I guess having experience with like game dev and stuff is oftentimes the mods that I want are not available. So I actually do have to pull up the construction set or the creation kit, whatever editors, and actually sometimes I have to make my own ESPs to like either implement stuff that no one has made or to solve. Well, when solving conflicts, I would use the test edit, whatever, like. But yeah, it's
Xedit.
Yeah, Xedit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like the curse of like knowing how to do this stuff is that I tend to like work harder than most people because nothing is enough. I would find like this really stupid conflict, like some very obscure thing, and I'm like, oh, I want to fix it, and next thing you know, like I have like all these weird like compatibility patches that I made myself, and then it never ends.
Yeah. I am starting to cross that horizon because I've learned, a very, very, very basic, like open up Photoshop and slap, a PNG on a texture and boot it up in Starfield. Like I've learned how to do that.
I saw that.
And, it's slowly the unraveling of like, okay, if no one else is gonna put some like Doom themed items in the game, because there's not even like, as far as like Easter eggs, that's one of the things that I love the most in just video games in general.
Yeah.
Doom ain't got nothing. Doom, Quake, they got nothing. And Starfield's like, okay, well, shoot, I'll be the one to put a little something in there.
It's absurd. Like literally nothing. Like I would expect like at least one nod somewhere, but yeah that was weird.
They might be saving it for like, I don't know,
DLCs.
Like I was thinking in DLCs or Creation Club content.
Yeah, that's
they did that with Fallout 4.
Yeah,
they you could get the Quake Thunderbolt and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, the last question I want to ask, and this this has, it is a spicy question.
Ooh.
What is your controversial food opinion? Like, for you hate pickles, or you hate this, or you want to put this on your pizza. What's something that might draw the ire of someone who's listening?
Well, I'll go with the not so controversial take first, because I think this is a pretty common take by now. But I'm one of those pineapple does not go in pizza people, for the record.
There you go. Yep.
But
I knew you were a good one from the beginning.
I knew that from the beginning. But one thing, I swear to God, one thing that I absolutely loathe in my food is bean sprouts.
I don't have experience with bean sprouts.
Yeah, so in Asia, bean sprout is a very common thing to put in food. And I kid you not, nothing makes me more like outrageous, angry than like it got to a point where even a tiny whiff of bean sprout just gets me like all riled up and like
yeah.
So I remember a very recent like outing I had with my family. So we were ordering some. It was an Asian restaurant, right? So we were ordering. So these days like they make you order in like the phone app. You don't really order in the menu anymore. Yeah. So I had like my my fiance order some food for me. It's called kway teow, which is basically like flat noodles. So I was kind of like, okay, can I have this and this and this? And then she keyed it in, right? And then, so I was like, so she was in charge of the keying the things, so the phone was with her. So I was not really looking at the phone. I was actually holding the menu, and the menu was like gigantic. It pretty much covers like almost like half my body. So
yeah,
as I was looking at the menu, and then like in the corner of my eye, she was holding the phone, and like she was like holding it downwards. In the corner of my eye, I saw like the thumbnail of the thing that I told her told her to order for me. The tiny thumbnail on her phone screen, and her phone screen is not even like at maximum brightness. In the corner of my eye, I saw like a picture of the thing that she keyed in for me, and it had bean sprouts in the picture. I took the phone and I was like, wait, hold up, what is that?
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, this is not what I ordered. Didn't I order something else? And then we cross-checked, and between the physical menu and the ordering app, and okay, actually that was a wrong thing. And then I was like, okay, you know what? Like I think you guys know by now, like my aversion towards bean sprout. Like don't even try to sneak order bean sprout stuff. I will find out. If you try to. So I hate bean sprout so much. I don't know if it's probably not a common thing in the States, like putting some bean sprout and stuff, I guess.
No, I wouldn't say so. Not in what would be considered traditionally American food.
Yeah.
Or no. Like when I because I used to live in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
When I lived in Thailand, they had, this was more like, because I lived up in the north part, but we would go to Bangkok a lot.
Yeah.
So in Bangkok, everything just smells like it's got fish sauce or fish paste in it. It's like,
exactly.
Come on, please, no.
Yeah.
I just want cashew nut chicken. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Just give me that, or some sticky rice.
Oh, those are awesome.
Nothing with fish, please.
Yeah, Malaysian dishes tend to have lots of fishy stuff as well. Since seeing as we are like neighbors with Thailand, so the cultures do cross over. Yeah,
I mean that would be a big thing. I mean, Japan, you can think about further up north, Japan's, oh man, it's a lot of it's just seafood,
Yeah.
And that's going to be the same for a lot of island-bound nations. So,
yeah.
But anyway, everyone's got to have their likes and dislikes, but the fact that you're able to just out of the corner of your eye on a phone that wasn't at full brightness, just a little tiny thumbnail, it has to be some kind of innate human ability to know when there's something that you don't like in the food that you're about to eat. It's like, I know I can identify this immediately.
Yes.
And my body is telling me no. Because I'm a pretty picky eater, so I can immediately, it's like, this has pickles in it, or this has tomatoes in it.
Right.
No. We're going to put the brakes on this.
I like pickles, just saying.
All right. Okay. Well, that's we're going to have to end it there if that's the case. All right. I do want to thank you, though, for joining me today, for telling us about yourself and what you're working on. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here as well.
Yeah. I'm really glad that, you agreed to be on and, have the honor of being the first guest. First of many, I hope. So
first of many, I hope. Yes.
Yes. I'm not exactly sure when this is going to go up, but for posterity's sake, it is October 14th when we're recording this. So, yeah, hopefully shouldn't be too long by the time I get done cleaning up the audio. But thank you for everyone who tuned in to listen to this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.